Welcome to XReality Podcast, Beyond the Horizon, exploring uncharted territories with spatial computing, AI, and XR, where the future of spatial computing meets industry innovation. I am Dominic Wu, alongside my co-host, Ted Skulowitz. Each week, we explore the unexpected connections between diverse sectors and the world of spatial AI and extended reality. Our goal is to enlighten XR creators about the vast expertise in various industries, uncover the unique challenges they face, and inspire collaboration that leads to groundbreaking solutions. Join us live on Saturdays on LinkedIn or catch the replay on Sundays. Get ready to expand your horizons with SPAI and XR. Follow us on LinkedIn at XReality Pro and get your weekly XReality podcast. Let's embark on our spatial AI journey. Hi, I'm Dominic Wu, alongside my co-host, Ted Skulowitz. Each week, we explore the unexpected connections between diverse sectors and the world of spatial AI, SPAI, and extended reality XR. Today, our guest is Dr. José Ferrer Costa and So Dr. José Ferrer Costa is a family medicine specialist and acupuncture master, practicing since 2004 with a focus on patient well-being, working with Badalona Serveis Assistencials. He leads projects in innovation and clinical research, focusing on application of virtual reality VR and extended reality XR in healthcare and education. His work includes developing immersive VR experiences for patient care, medical training, and managing conditions such as chronic pain and cognitive impairments. Dr. Jose is passionate about integrating cutting-edge technology to enhance patient outcomes and healthcare professional education. So thank you, Dr. Jose, to join us for today's podcast. And our first question will be, what do you see the evolution of VR and XR in healthcare?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me, Dominique, and thank you for co-hosting Ted. It's a pleasure to be talking about, which is actually my passion at the moment. Well, one of my passions, but it's really very impressive the work you can do and all the impact you can have with VR in healthcare. So yeah, let's see what can I bring to the table and to the screen to talk about my experience and all the research I've been doing with VR, because there's so much information all around. But if you want to start with the impact of the future, or we want to go back to the history of how it all started?
I think it's always interesting to start with your personal journey, with what you've done in the medical field, what you've done in your personal life, how the intersection of technology and virtual reality entered into your world, and why you pursue it with so much energy. You put a lot of time and energy into this. This has become the mainstay of your professional life, right? So for the people listening and watching, walk us through your journey as to how you got to this point in your life.
That's a great way to start it. Yes, let's make it more personal. It's always better. Well, I've been doing clinical work since 2000. I finished medical school in 2000 back in Brazil, but during the medical university study, I was also doing some Erasmus or exchange. So that's how I was in Barcelona. That's where I live now for 6 months doing one of my rotation in internal medicine. And I decided to come and live here. So back in 2001, when I finished, I was working as a family doctor, and I decided to take this specialty here in Barcelona. And I was always very passionate about medical, internal medicine and general practitioner. But I was always looking for something extra to bring to my practice, to my patients, because I saw that it's not enough to use the conventional medicine. It's very limited in some cases, especially now that we have so much psychosomatic problems that you see that you cannot just give a pill to someone and think that they're going to be okay with that. So I did a master's in Chinese medicine and acupuncture. That was a second step in going to the way I arrived here. And I was doing acupuncture. Then I started using meditation with acupuncture, mindfulness with the patients, which helped a lot. And then back in 2019, I started using VR as first as a hobby because I liked it. I was always drawn to technology also. But then I met this group, this international group that's called Educators in VR. And because they were looking for someone to start one of the teams for medical and XR healthcare team, they invited me to join them and co-founded the team. And then I started doing events with them about the use of VR and XR in healthcare. And that was how it all started, because then I got to meet so many interesting people doing amazing work in research and clinical projects with VR and XR for healthcare that was so impactful. That was really because I knew VR and I knew healthcare very personally. So when I joined the two things that I liked the most, it was really amazing for me. And the first the first project I started, that was back in 2021. It was during the pandemics because there was a lot of burnout between my colleagues. I saw some of my friends saying that they felt like when the patient was coming to see them, they felt like they were there only to bother them, and they didn't even care about what they were telling them. And that was like a red alert for me. And I thought, what can I do to help them? And I was building, because I was actually building virtual world. I learned how to develop VR. So I was building virtual world for mindfulness and for meditation in the metaverse, and I could bring it to them. And then I did this first research project as a pilot project that was focusing on teaching mindfulness techniques and emotional management techniques to the healthcare providers, not only medical doctors and nurses, all the people working in health centers. And I did that with a friend of mine, which was also a family doctor, who is an expert in mindfulness for healthcare workers. So it was just perfect, the combination. And so she came with the techniques, and then I translated into virtual worlds and used 3D animations to illustrate the techniques she wants to teach them. And we came up with this educational program, 8 sessions, 10 to 50 minutes that you can do in the headset without the need to even connect it to the internet. So it was pretty easy for the doctors that were having no time to do anything else to just stop for 50 minutes, put on the headset. And because the immersion of VR breaks this connection to the conventional world, that's a conventional reality, because you enter this new virtual reality and then you don't think about anything else. You cannot look at your mobiles, you cannot see anything else around you. You are immersed there, and your attention is so grabbed, so focused. That's how the VR is so impactful for education. I think that's how I got here. So
Right.
that was the start.
That's a good start. Do you incorporate virtual reality into the other parts of your life? Do you use it to play games, to entertain yourself, or is it just a professional pursuit at this point?
At this point, I did before, not to play games. Well, you can say it's a game. I was building worlds and houses on the metaverse because I that's a game. You can say it before,
Sure.
but now I don't have time anymore. There are so many projects because of so many projects at the hospital and the healthcare centers at the moment that I'm working mornings, afternoon, nights, and weekends, and I still want more hours each day to do projects, because I'm not doing only the development. I'm doing all the research project, the management, looking for funding, well, implementing the work.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear you talk, because there are so many of us, Dominique and I for sure, and many others probably either listening to this or just around the world, that are so interested and passionate about creating simulations using technology, right? And there's no field that represents the value of creating a simulation more than medicine. Maybe architecture and some others, but for the importance of learning how to train and understand how something is going to happen to a person's body or a person's brain or a person's essence before actually going to do the invasive part of that. I think it's such a big area that is still, we're just scratching the surface on the value of being able to take training and simulation from just a 2D screen and a video into a full immersive world and literally turn it into something where your brain, your body, your visual system, your hands, your limbic system believes it's really happening. We see tremendous value for training. And we also see, as I was sharing before we all got on publicly, for patients themselves to actually learn what's going to happen to them before the process of it actually happening to them. Put them in a simulation and let them learn what's going to happen to their body or whatever's going to happen in a surgical procedure or some other holistic procedure. So it'd be interesting for you to comment on that.
Yeah, exactly. One of the educational part of VR, the impact of education, but that we can have with VR, it's the base of most of the projects at the moment, both for the healthcare professional and for the patient. Because, for instance, if you take the project for the prevention of burnout, it's an educational project. There's no way around it. It's not relaxing sessions or just like an app for relaxing. It's educational sessions in a program. And then we have also our VR program for managing chronic pain for the patients. And we're not using it for distraction, which is it's another very good component that you can use VR for chronic pain or for treatment. But in this case, we're using it for educational purposes. We're using it together inside the program. That's also 8 sessions. I don't know who came up with 8 sessions, by the way, because every research project, not
Magic
only with
number
VR,
8.
the magic number 8, but it's also 8 sessions of 1.5 hours with the physiotherapists, family doctors, and psychologists in primary care for the chronic pain patients. They are teaching them also mindfulness and other emotion management techniques, but how to move with the pain, to accept the pain, to get in touch with their own body. And then we use VR like 20, 30 minutes maybe, because it can illustrate the techniques you want to explain. Some people are have this difficulty to imagine what you are trying to explain. Like for mindfulness, if you think about there is this technique, there's the body scan. Then when you learning how to do it, you need to imagine a light going through your body, different parts. And some people say that when I remember a doctor friend of mine, when I close my eyes and you tell me to think about the light, I only see the patient that I just saw. I cannot think about the light. But if you don't have to close your eyes and you are in this immersive, relaxed environment, and then you see an avatar and with a light going down the body, each part that you are narrating that he should or she should imagine, it's very impactful. And then next time they have to imagine, they do it easily.
What hardware do you use currently for physicians and for patients and all the different things? Are you like centered on the Quest because of its low cost and its availability, or do you use other more exotic hardware or a combination?
We're using Quest mostly because that's the one I was using myself, and I learned how to develop on it. And then also because of cost, because I work in this public institution, so there is not that much budget for innovation or projects like those. So I'm always trying to find funding. So it's easier, of course. And also because it's the features of the headsets are very good. The hand tracking is very good. I use a lot of hand tracking for some interactions, for exercise for patients. The quality of the screen, the audio, everything works, and it's very robust. Also, the Quest 2, it's amazing how many times I saw people banging them somewhere or let them down on the
it
floor,
survives.
and it still survives. So yeah, okay. I have to admit it's a very good piece of hardware.
I do too. I agree.
Yeah. I do love the HTC Vive Flow because it's very small and very comfortable. But of course, it's much more expensive, and the features, and you cannot really use it for hand tracking or anything else.
Right.
You can use the Elite, which is much more expensive than.
How about Vision Pro? Because everybody is talking about like a Vision Pro for medical, and upcoming we will have a speaker who, the guest podcast speaker who just published a book, Vision Pro for healthcare. So I want to ask you, what do you see Vision Pro in healthcare, these sectors as well?
Probably for some uses, it's better maybe for AR or if you want to train surgery. But for the patient directly, I don't know what they're gonna use it. Maybe in some cases, but otherwise, if you want to use VR, I still would go with the Quest 2 because it's cheaper, it's robust, it's still comfortable if you
Yeah,
use
we agree.
a Alice strap. Or if you want to use AR or mixed reality, you can use the Quest 3, which is still good, very
Yeah,
good.
and very inexpensive, very cost effective. Yeah.
Exactly. So if I need to make a group of 10 patients and I want to use headsets, instead of buying 3, I can buy 10. So it's much better.
Have you had a chance to use the Vision Pro yet? Have you had a chance to wear it?
I did, and the Vision Pro, I was expecting it to be more comfortable, but then I
Yeah,
didn't find it
we
more.
all were. Trust me, that's a universal problem. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, in
exactly.
fact, if you want to watch, I can send you the link to it. If you want to watch the seminar we did at South by Southwest with myself, my friend Charlie, who Dominique knows, and Roni, the guy who started Magic Leap, we talked very positively about the Vision Pro and how amazing it is in many ways. And then as diplomatically as we possibly could, as there's one sitting right behind me there, we talked about
Yeah.
how ergonomically, for all the resources that Apple has, they didn't really put a lot of thought into how people would
Yeah.
actually wear and use this thing.
There is no
Good news
breakthrough
is,
there.
there's always another one around the corner. So we'll see how they do.
Yeah, and I
Exactly.
saw a lot of like developers complain about Vision. Apple didn't have fundings for developers. So at the beginning, when Vision Pro launched, it has a hype. Everybody wanna try it, buy it, but the return rate is very high, and
Yes.
also the voice in the internet or the app is going down just because they are not supportive, and then developers are less willingly to develop Vision Pro. So that's kind of the hype and up and down. Yeah. And Dr. Jose, before you send me a link about like a few hundred of worlds, wellness beings worlds built in all space, but now you see like all the I would say collaboration space are closed, such as Glue, Allspace, Mozilla Hub, and how can people in this area can do the meditation like the majority of the cooperation or like the XR meetup is in Engage right now. So what do you see this? And also you have so many hundreds of virtual reality worlds, and how what's your plan to put somewhere else or web XR? What's your plan? Yeah.
Yeah, well, that was, I'm still mourning the Outspace VR closing. It was really sad. It was not only because of the community that we had there and the ease of use and all the events we could do and all the words I had there, but also because of the amount of hours, the insane amount of hours I spent developing those words and making it perfect for that platform. That after that, I really struggled to find another platform, and because it requires a lot of, each platform has a different system. You can use the same software, you can use Unity to build the word, but you need a different SDK, a different kind of specifications. So you cannot just get the same project and upload to another platform. So the interoperability between platforms is something that has to be worked. It has to change. You have to be able to have your word in spatial and then click a button and invite people for Engage to join it, and it would be compatible. But we're not there yet because it's the way it is. There's a lot of new platforms, and every day there's a new platform somewhere, and they're not compatible, and it's a problem. So for the moment, what I'm doing is, but on the good side, that was a push I needed to, because before I was using Outspace VR, even for the Burnout project, I started using it. They had to connect the headset to the internet and enter my work in Outspace VR. And it was much more complicated because, of course, you need an internet, you need to connect, you need to be the user there. And then it was the push I had to learn to develop an app. And now what I do is I use all these words and projects I have in my computer to build different projects, and I build them into an app and I upload them directly into the headset. So we can use that without even connected to the Wi-Fi, which is a big problem because in most of the healthcare centers, they don't have Wi-Fi. So I was having to connect with a mobile phone. You can imagine it doesn't work.
Yeah, it's very different than the United States, where I think almost every healthcare center is Wi-Fi enabled, and you know, a lot of hospitals have insular walls, right? So you've got very difficult to get even mobile signals in and out.
Yeah.
But like I'm tied to UCLA and this big thing down in Florida, and you have a full expectation that there will be very robust Wi-Fi, publicly open, that patients and doctors can get on, both in the private systems and the public systems. It's interesting that it hasn't really cultivated. I would think Spain is a fairly evolved place, right? I mean, it's not a third world country. It should have
Exactly.
Wi-Fi in a hospital, no matter where you are.
It's starting very slowly, but yeah, it's not there yet.
Interesting.
They have the plan for this year to put Wi-Fi in all the centers of the institutional work. There are 70 centers all around the city, but it takes time because it's an extra expense
Sure,
that
of
they have
course.
to deal with, and they cannot even use the same network that they use for the work, the healthcare work, because
Right.
of security, of course.
Right.
So
Well, that's, I mean, this better than probably anybody. That's one of the biggest challenges and disparities of healthcare is that the profit centers living in the insurance side and living outside of what directly benefits the patients, the families, and the physicians is maybe there's almost no other industry that has such a split between who makes the money and who gets the benefits. And the fact that you're constantly having to reach out for funding to do this great work that's so meaningful when all the dollars goes into bureaucracy and healthcare insurance dynamics, it's got to be extraordinarily frustrating for you. I have no
it
doubt.
is, it is more and more because now that I'm doing I'm not doing clinical work anymore. I'm 100% in the innovation center and innovation department. So I'm managing the project. So I'm learning how everything works around the bureaucracy, all the strange and stupid expenses
Exactly.
that there are
Just
around
extraordinarily
there.
inefficient. And why are we spending money
Exactly,
here when I could put it here
exactly,
and make good? Right. I
yeah,
very, very much understand. It's frustrating. Yeah.
exactly. So
Um,
yes.
yeah, what's the challenges for XR adoptions in healthcare? Just like you mentioned that bureaucracy. I heard because before I mentioned about like XR in healthcare, a lot of people more like people with a lot of experience that told me that don't touch the bureaucracy part. You couldn't change anything. Maybe diagnose patient or some surgery, maybe teaching training that you might be able to kind of get in, but the bureaucracy, administrative types of work is almost impossible to change. So what's the challenge you face right now?
Well, there are different challenges, like the technical part that you need to find the right hardware with the compatible with the network that you're working, if you need internet or not, and also the price of those hardwares, which is very important in a public healthcare system. So the collaboration with the IT department was very important. Actually, I'm working for the IT department at the moment because the innovation department is part of it. So it makes it easier to understand all the possibilities that I could get, but to use technology in our institution. A very personal challenge which I think is everywhere in the world. Healthcare professionals, doctors and more doctors than nurses, but both, they are a little bit resistant to technology. I don't know if you had the same experience that Ted, but yeah, if you want to explain to them a new technology that they have to learn how to use in the everyday practice is something that they feel like it's a problem, it's an annoying problem that they don't need it because they don't have time, probably
Well, I think
because
that's you hit on it really. I think I would say it's less that they're not interested in technology. I think just as a healthcare professional, you're so overwhelmed with your caseload and the amount of work that you have to do that putting time and energy into anything outside of your comfort zone, anything that just you know how to do, is really hard, which is actually one of the things. This is a kind of a curiosity for me too. We're always looking, now that we're in the age of AI in all of its forms, we're looking for certain efficiencies that it can bring into the healthcare realm in terms of, documentation is really important for a patient's journey, right? And the amount of time that a high level physician, not an assistant or someone just learning, but the physician itself is just spending typing information in while they're with a patient is extraordinarily inefficient and wasteful, right? And the idea of having an AI listening into the conversation and actually making a live transcript in real time, making all the relevant points, doing all the summary, so the doctor then can spend 5 to 7 minutes doing a review of that summary and making sure it's accurate, as opposed to 45 minutes of data entry and then another 45 minutes of review, I think is super interesting. And then when you tie that into a simulation use case where if you need to, have a patient review or look at something, and you can break the space-time continuum and be able to bring people into a world by putting them into a headset and letting them understand something that would only happen in the real world. Like, let me show you what we're going to do with you in this surgery. I can only show you so much on a 2D monitor. I can do something in person while I can touch your body and physically show you, but in VR, we get to actually do a little bit of both, right? But the real challenge more than anything is how much time per patient when their patient load is 30, 40 patients a day, right? It's just exhausting. They don't have time to learn a VR system. It's like, what are you
No.
asking me to do? I don't even have the time to do it, right? So I get it.
Yeah, and I was very lucky. Oh, maybe I was very smart at that time. When I started my first project, did I tell you the story before we were online, or was it already online? About my first VR project in the institution was the one for preventing burnout. I think I
No, I
did
don't
it
think so.
online already. I think it was online. So back in 2021, when I was already using VR, developing VR words for
Yes, you did.
meditation and relaxation, I started this VR project for teaching mindfulness techniques and emotion management techniques for healthcare providers, not only medical doctors and us, but everybody working in healthcare system. And because they were the first ones to use VR for their own selves, they learned in first person the potential of VR for other uses, or even the same uses, but for patients. And after that, I have so many colleagues coming to me asking to do a project with VR for the patients, for this or that, or the pediatrician, they want to use it for children that come to get the vaccine and completely crazy and hysterical because they are afraid of the vaccine. And there are so many nice use cases for that. The palliative care providers, they want me to use VR for improving the life quality of people that are in a bed and cannot go anywhere.
Right.
So because they used VR themselves, and that's the best way to evangelize people in VR. Well,
Absolutely.
it's the only way, I think.
Yeah.
And
I
then
agree.
because they know it works, they know it's not just a game, and so they would take the time to learn how to use it for their patients. I think that was a very good way to start.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know if there was another thing that the challenges, the ethical challenges, and that's a very important thing in healthcare. If you're using VR and you or any other device that you are connecting to any kind of network and you are collecting data, which some projects do, it's a very important thing it's a very big challenge sometimes because you need to be very throughout with the security of data.
Yeah, in the US, we have HIPAA compliance, and I know there's a European version of that too. That I think the
Yes.
US and Europe largely are the most concerned around patient security, patient privacy, tracking data. I think we do as best as we can, considering how large the healthcare industry is and how robust it is. And again, where the money really goes, it always would be better for it to go to better places. But it's it's interesting. I love you mentioned, the idea of when a patient's in palliative care, and the idea with these headsets that are so light, so nimble, and getting higher and higher resolution, to be able to
Mm,
take them on a journey if they can't leave their bed for a long period of time, to be able to take them, you ask them, what's your favorite place to go in the world, right? And literally take them there, take them on a fly-through
yeah.
journey. I don't know if you had a chance to do this, or Dominique, you had a chance to do this, but if you ask, for those of us that have been doing VR long enough, you have these interesting experiences. And one of them is you ask people, what is the one thing that you've been able to make more people cry in virtual reality than anything else? And I'll tell you what it is for me. I'm curious of what it is for you. Is there was it's not quite as much used anymore. It's kind of fallen off the radar because of the mobile headsets, because it requires a lot of processing power. But
Mm,
remember when Google Earth did their VR program, and you could literally go anywhere inside Google Earth in full spatial? So I'd put friends and family and colleagues, they'd come over to the house, they'd come over to my office, and they would be, okay, so what is interesting? We'd show them different games and different experiences. And then I'd say, all right, let's do something fun. We put them in a headset and say, let's show you, let me take you to Barcelona. Let me take you to Paris. Let me take you to New York. Like, oh my gosh. And then the next thing everyone would ask, every single person would be, can you take me to where I lived when I was a kid? And you say,
exactly.
sure, if you know the address or the rough area, I can. So they would often call their mom or their dad on their cell phone.
Oh.
Mom, what was the address when we lived when I was like 8 years old? And they would tell them. So you type in the address in Google, because it's Google, right? And it would literally fly you to their house, and then they could navigate around it. And
Exactly.
it was amazing, the emotional rush people would have. It's like, oh, there's my house. Oh my gosh, they put in a pool. They put in a second story. I still remember their driveway. And then they would immediately start crying, because it's that emotional reaction of putting someone to a space that they felt like they can't visit anymore. And then you could
Exactly.
literally take them there. And it was incredible. So I'm curious if you have other sort of touch points like that were so
It, it's
emotional.
very it's very interesting. It's very funny that you just described one of my projects.
Oh, good. Okay,
with
let's hear about it.
we're doing this project. It's a little bit more complicated because we decide to do it for some seniors with a little bit mild to advanced uh, cognitive impairment in primary care. The nurses that used my burnout prevention, they came to me with this idea. Why don't you be use VR to take these patients back to where they lived when they were younger? Because
Mm,
the reminiscence memory is something that's still there and is intact. Because they are sad, they are depressed normally because they don't feel like they could recognize their everyday life. But if you take them back to the place they lived and the place they used to go partying or the town hall and things like that, and then you ask them about what they used to do there, what about and so I developed this very simple VR app for the nurse to use. It was just a skybox with the pictures of different places of the history of each patient, with the music, the soundtrack of the app, the time,
right.
with the music that they
Mm.
like. So
Yeah.
we use visual places and also music memory. And they just starting the pilot now this last month, and they really liking it.
That brings up emotions to me, because I can imagine a patient that is in a depressed state, feeling like, their life is in a really bad situation. They're not dealing with it well. Their family's not dealing with it well. And if you can give them some moment of joy, and you can connect them to a place that they had a good time, a good moment, whether that was 6 months ago, 6 years ago, or 60 years ago, is incredible emotional context. And the fact that you can tie
Yes.
music to it, because music of that era
Yeah.
is that very, so it'd be very interesting. I
Exactly.
would love to actually put that and try that in a trial in the United States. I would love to see what you're doing with it and test it and see
Sure.
if I can help you get it out to more places, because I'm very passionate about that type of thing. I think
Of
that's really
course. Yeah.
interesting.
I'll keep you informed. We're
Great.
just starting the first patients, but it's something that's, of course, it takes a little bit of more time to develop because you need to find the specific places and music
Sure.
for each patient. But it's not a lot of work. Actually, it's a very simple process. Once you have the project on, you just need to change
Yeah.
the pictures and the music.
Well, one of the really interesting, baseline things in an Apple Vision Pro is, the dial between mixed reality and full virtual reality. And they've already done, I don't know, 15 or 20 different beautiful areas. Like one of them is Yosemite, you know, and because the headset is such high fidelity, even though it's heavy and uncomfortable, you kind of get a sense that you're really there. So you're kind of like looking at the future a little bit. When all this gets better, the idea of taking a patient to a place, even if they have to go through a procedure, right, which is a very uncomfortable procedure, they say, we're just gonna put this headset on you, and then you can ignore everything. Like you're gonna feel some little poking and prodding, but you're gonna have
Yeah,
no idea what we're doing because you're on Mars or you're in Yosemite or you're, you know, on the beach in Barcelona. And that's an amazing thing. As we get
exactly.
more and more fidelity into these headsets, the ability to remove the patient from the area that's stressing them is a very advantageous thing that I think we should pursue more.
It is a very impactful use of VR. Of course, I'm a big fan of VR. Of course, you can see that I'm passionate about it, but I'm very critical also about the ideas of how to use it. And I have already said no to some of my colleagues that wanted to use it for the uses that I saw. "Oh, that's not really something that you would
So
get
give us
any
an example.
benefit."
What would be something that you'd say you think that's a
Like,
good idea? Because we do that a lot with entertainment. It's like you have to ask this hard question. Why do you think this would be better in VR than in a
yeah,
traditional screen?
for,
And very
for
often they
there
don't
was
have a good answer, right?
for instance, if you want to create something that you want to reach the most people that you could, you want to use it in a 2D screen in a mobile phone, because then you can send a link and everybody would get it. If you want to educate doctors in a new protocol, even though using VR for teaching them might be more impactful and engaging, if you want to do it fast and reach the most of professionals in a
Yeah,
short time, you're not going to do it in VR because
correct.
you don't have it that much. If you were living outside that everybody was using VR every day, okay, maybe, but it's not the point. It's not the case. So
Yeah, I agree. It
those
has
are
to be something
those are
special
the cases.
and really
Yeah,
meaningful. And VR has the worst scale of any piece of media right now.
of
Not the
course,
best. We
exactly.
agree. Yeah.
But when you have special cases like this, like going back to another use case, we work with this company here in Barcelona that makes the 360-degree videos, and they did this project with patients in the UCI that could not get out of the hospital for weeks or maybe months, and they could not even see the family because they were in
Mm,
isolation. So what they did is they went with the 360-degree camera to the patient's house and recorded the family meeting, and they were giving them all the news, telling them the histories, and then they played it in VR. Of
right.
course, can you imagine that you are in the hospital in the UCI and you are not there anymore? Suddenly you are in your family house with your whole family, saying nice things, telling the news, and of course that impacts the recovery of the patient because
Totally.
they feel much better.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed.
Yeah, my experience is like I went to a theater. Theater introduced me to their VR chat live performance by Fairman Collective. It was a very interesting setup. Pretty much in VR chat, you can have a super innovative like settings. So they're like they will dress like a robot, but every robot will be a human soul behind it. So pretty much we know that person theater, but when I talk to her, she is onboarding like a robot. So the onboarding is perfect because it's a real human, it's not even automate. So we know how to enable all the boundary in VR chat, very complicated, but because there's a human tell us to hit what button. But I think the entire live performance was so touching and so emotional. The reason why is because I think they have kind of a show and in a I would say beyond the physical limitations. So you can pretty much being teleport up to another world, and they have a lot of very positive messages. And the actors will interact with you, and it's all life meaning. For example, like each person, they will kind of have a solo time with you and tell you like your goal, your mission, and every we have three people enjoying the live performance theater, and we get through a lot of games. I know I'm more like a younger people, so I feel very touched when I play some games in like a VR place, and it's just so I would say incredible, because I suddenly, after I finished the game, I was immersed with undersea, where there are a lot of fish like swimming around. It's just like I am a small, super small, tiny person, and it has a lot of positive message, such as in life there's always some obstacles, but there's always some sunshines. But using like a very immersive like animations, and put people like into 360 place, and at the end we finish the mission, and the alien, which is played by theater, she took us to very top place and told us, actually we are just a gumball, like a machine, and every of our dreams is like a gumball dreams. So it's like a nothing in the world is a big deal, because we are just very small types of like a bubble dreams inside
Yeah.
that big machine. So I was very touched, and I was like, wow, in VR, you can go beyond the physical limitation. And instead of sitting watching like 2D movies, you actually inside and interact with the characters. And later on, you can they can express the abstract meanings inside that like a virtual environment. And so I was very impressed, and everybody was like, wow, this is such an amazing platform, better than watching movie or even be in a live theater where you just sit on the seat. So yeah, this is like my touching experience.
Well, it is very good because it changes your perspective, and it's an impactful experience that it can change your whole life from that day on in some cases. That's the impact of being so immersive in that, with this all these worlds of possibilities that you can change and create and change the perspective from. It's actually one of the sessions that we do for the burnout. You start inside the situation that you're fighting. You're watching a fight from the distance between two people. In this case, it was a healthcare provider and a user. And then after that, it make everything start getting smaller, and you see the whole center, and then get smaller, you see the whole city and the whole town, the whole world, and then it pops up the 3D solar system floating around yourself, and you're just there following the sun and Mars and all the planets. And then you see from the distance the small blue planet with all the little dots that were the people with the same situation as you were, feeling yourself distressed. And then it makes you see, yeah, it's true. I'm just a little dot of there, a little dust in the sky.
Yeah, and Ruth Diaz, she also create a lot of worlds for people to empathize others. For example, like she create a world where it's like teaching people what's trolling in metaverse. So I remember she brought me to a lake where there's a dragon on the
Mm.
surface of the lake, and under it is top of it is a nice dragon, but bottom, the reflection on the leg,
Mm.
the dragon is evil dragon. And when we dive into, we just jumping under the lake, and where she put all the scenarios, what types of trolling. So it's just like what you said, that watching people fight on the distance, and there will be some explanations of what's trolling. And another one is she create a DACA experience. DACA is a plan where kids was being sent to America, but without legal documentation, and everyone was sent to teleport directly to the airplane, and about to kind of get off to the airplane and get through the costumes. So those experience was a little bit terrifying, because everybody was suspicious and you need to fill
Mm.
out the form. Yeah, so those are also, I would say, having a lot of like an interesting perspective shift, and also empathize, be in other people's shoes, that types of experience for VR. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So as for the healthcare, what do you see the future of healthcare with AR, VR, and XR?
Well, the future is really, really brilliant in that case. I think there people are starting to see it's not just a game, not only the people using it directly, but the patients, the managers, the directors. And that's one of the good things, because that's my personal experience also, because of the results we got from the first project. The management of the institution decided to invest more in that technology, because they saw that it's not just something to make it look nice, or to appear in the news for one day. It really makes an impact. It's really valid. You can invest in something because it's giving you something actual, really impact, actual impact that's positive. And also the investments. If you explain to them, okay, you're buying a pair of headsets for this center, for this project, but then they're not going to be doing this project 24 hours a day every day, so you can use the same hardware for other projects. And then it's also very interesting for them when you explain this cost benefit. For medical education, it's amazing what you can do. Surgery, you can train. There's so many advanced with haptics. There is this company in France that they build all these surgical instruments as VR tools that you can use in mannequins when you are inside the VR simulation with the headsets. And it's the best kind of training that they could do for now. It's getting better and better. For mental health is the area that I think it's the best to use VR, because everything is about the mind. Everything is about what you see, what you believe you are living. All this experience. Actually, one of the oldest ways, oldest publications of VR in healthcare is about treating phobia and addiction, which is because you're exposing the therapy, the exposure therapy. It's like you're describing what you want to have in VR. You want to expose people to to these specific situations where they would be afraid of something, or they would feel like they need to use whatever they addicted to. And what better way to expose someone to a situation than VR? It's just the definition of the immersion. No? And then the pain management is something that goes in the same direction also. So I see a brilliant future of VR in healthcare. Oh, I can hear you, Dominique. No, you muted.
Okay. So
There.
yeah.
There you go. You're back.
Yeah. Recently I'm reading a book, which is also another upcoming guest's book. His book is called Generosity Crisis. So what he mentioned is that it's like Americans, according to the data, Americans start less and less being generosity about others by the data. For example, like nonprofits, they get less and less support. And you see right now the layoff situation, right? So you see companies, just because they want to reduce the cost, even though they are still profiting, but they start laying off people. So you can see the generosity crisis, that people are less and less trying to benefit others, or doing something for the beneficial good of the society. And if you see that for a lot of companies, they exit out the DEI, diversion, inclusion, all those programs are being exit out. So I think for VR, for helping out with get the humanity together, empathize with other people, that would be great. For example, right now we have wars, right, in Israel. I don't know, like, I mean, I'm very bad at geography, but I think it's in somewhere in Europe, in the Middle East. So yeah, so makes me think about like, wow, like you see the war. I don't want to mention about politics because I know there a lot of people are very strong feeling about some certain beliefs, but I do see that why you fight others and other people fight you and the bomb just throw more and more and bigger and bigger. Yeah, so this types of situation, I think our world need more empathy and also, yeah, like a more like a something that today we bring up the emotion aspects of it. Maybe for each leaders, maybe let them to empathize what other people's situation, or maybe something that sees the war because it's just like you throw bunch of bomb together and we will eventually being destroyed. So yeah, that's my thought. Yeah.
Yeah, well, creating positive outcomes. I mean, the idea of using, I mean, we simplify this term, but the idea of using VR for good as a universal tool set is, Jose, something that you're clearly, passionate about and working on, and finding valuable use cases that can actually drive us towards a better future for all of us, right? It's technology use case in its best possible forms. When you see a patient or a physician getting real value out of something that you've created, it must be extremely satisfying.
It is, and that's the best feedback. Not when I did for the first project, the burnout prevention. When I did the statistic analysis, it was a big surprise that it was significant because I thought, okay, just for doing that, it's not going to change the situation, but it did, and it was amazing. But the best feedback was the personal, uh, subjective feedback the professionals that were doing the program gave me. And I remember clearly once I met this nurse she was actually from the palliative care team, and I met her in the hospital somewhere, and she said, "Oh, last Tuesday we were in this very bad day in the palliative yard, and because three of them were doing the program at the moment, and I said, let's stop for 5 minutes, and that's the technique when you're doing the auto compassion." And they were doing this visualization, the three of them that they learned in the program in VR. That was, I think, I almost cried that day. That was amazing. And also there is another thing that sometimes people think, okay, people they feel alone, like seniors. We have a lot of this. There is another pandemic all around the world, that because we have so many people that live alone, and when they're older they feel so lonely. This loneliness is a big pandemic, and
Mm-hmm.
it affects the health and everything else. But because when we did this project with the seniors with cognitive impairment in another center, not the one with primary care, and some of the sessions were 360-degree videos of the environments that we recorded around the city, on the beach and things like that, so they knew the places. And it was on group, like 5 or 6 people at the same time, each one wearing a headset, but they were not in a metaverse, they were not seeing each other.
Right.
It was just the video, but you activate the video on a tablet, so they all see the same video at the same point exactly. And we didn't expect that, but it raised
Well, it's the
so
shared
much
experience, right?
the
Yeah.
social interaction, because this group of people, they go to this center every week, twice, to do exercise, memory and attention exercise, but they normally doing the exercise themselves. They don't talk to each other, and because they were doing the same exactly experience at the same time, they start to say, "Oh, I used to work here. I knew this place," and then it raised the social interaction so much that they were, you could see they having fun with that. That was really a rewarding experience.
Cool. Yeah.
Agreed.
Any other questions? I see the audience. Any audience has any questions? And Ted, do you have any kind of like a questions? Because we
Well,
have
I'll
7 minutes.
I'll pose something to Jose out of curiosity, and this is something I've been actually thinking about and working on with the Moffitt Center, with this group that I'm involved in Florida, this big cancer research center. Is I tell my friends this question. I'd be very interesting to see how you react to it, because it's a little bit of an offshoot of what you're doing. I look at the physicality of large healthcare environments, right? Big hospitals, big centers, big mass amounts of patients moving in and out. and the amount of real estate that they take up, right? And then I ask a secondary question that with all the money and resources that we have for healthcare, with the knowledge that patients and their families have to spend inordinate amount of times inside these giant hospital environments, why is the best we can do to entertain them and give them at least a little bit of brightness in their day, sticking an old 25-year television in the corner of the room with a remote that doesn't work, and giving, for the patient, and giving their families like an old People magazine from 6 years ago in a lobby? Like, are we can't do any better than that? Like, how is it possible that in one of the most profitable, largest industries in the world, we can't take a page out of what theme parks do and entertainment centers do and make full-on entertainment and wellness centers using virtual reality and mixed reality technology right inside the hospital itself? Why is that so hard? And you can open it up for people that aren't even patients of the hospital and let them pay $5 or $10 to come and experience it, right? So it can make money on its own. But the idea, and you touched on this throughout the hour we talked about, the idea of taking a patient that is bedbound, that is stuck in a bed, whether they broke their leg or both their legs or have heart surgery or cancer or something where they can't get out of a hospital environment for a long time, for weeks, sometimes months, right? And allow them with this technology that we have easy access to that doesn't cost a lot of money anymore, and give them a place to go and give them light touch games, things that they can do to interact. Even if they're in a bed, there are plenty of things you can do with your hands and tracking or with controllers and tracking. And even if you don't have use of your hands, you can use eye tracking, right? I mean, there's plenty of things that we can do. If you're sitting in a bed for 12 hours a day, sometimes 16 hours a day, because you're only getting 3 or 4 hours of sleep, because every time you go to sleep, the nurses wake you up to take blood, right?
Yes.
Give you something to do. And your family that's waiting in the lobby, with bad lighting and old furniture that's ripped apart and it's uncomfortable, and say, hey, you can get a ticket. It's free to go downstairs to the basement, and you can go do this fun stuff for 20 minutes or 2 hours or whatever it is, and then come back upstairs. And don't worry, we'll text you if there's something that goes wrong with your mom or your dad, and you'll be out of it in 1 second. We'll take you right up to the hospital room. I'm curious if you think that is something that we should all pursue as a group, that you should be pursuing in Europe, I should be pursuing in the US. We should try and get funding for it to essentially, for lack of a better way to describe it, can we build theme park style environments in hospitals to allow people to enjoy themselves?
Yeah, I really like the idea. There is also another option, not only the VR headset. I don't know if you saw these rooms that you can use a projector to make the three of the 4 walls into a VR environment.
Yes, absolutely.
And we do have that in the palliative care center. And the idea is also to make sessions for the community, for the patients and the families. We even had an event from children that were having this competition, the drawing competition, and the winner, they got this experience, the immersive experience in this immersive room that doesn't need the VR headset. So it's, of course, the projectors are still very expensive, I have to say, which it's much cheaper to buy the headsets, but it's the way maybe to go in the future, to have these special rooms first only with the comfortable seats and headsets because it's cheaper, and then when we can have the projector when they get cheaper in the future.
I'm curious. I just put in our little Zoom chat.
That's the one. Yeah, that's
Dominique,
the one.
you can share. I actually think this is a Spanish company because I met with them a couple of times, and I think they're from Spain. Yes?
They based in Barcelona.
Yeah, there you go. So are you using them? This is a company called Broomex. Is that the one that you're talking about?
Yeah, Broomex is the one. Yeah, we use them. We have
and it's cheap. It's. I mean, it's still way more expensive than a VR headset, but it's not. It's not hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? The headset,
exactly.
The projector's maybe what, $10,000, $15,000, something like that. Maybe less now.
I think a little bit, maybe
more. 25,000,
30.
Yeah. So it's not cheap, but it's really interesting.
It's not cheap, but yeah, exactly. Of course, you can use it for so many things.
Do you have one of these deployed in one of the hospitals that you know of?
We do have. In the intermediate care center where we have the palliative care center, the long-term patients. That's where we got the investment. We got this because of a donation from the Rotary Club. Thank you.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So yeah, last year
they
gave us this donation for getting this immersive room with Broomex technology.
That's cool.
It's amazing.
This is another one here. I'll put this in the chat too. This is a company I'm an advisor to that does 3D LED walls using regular passive glasses, very cheap glasses. It's another way to bring someone into another world without having to wear a headset. So there are definitely technologies. They're just more costly than VR. Yeah.
Yeah, which is, well, it's still, because it's newer than the VR headset, but it's very useful because you have patients that cannot really put on a headset if they are agitated or they have any kind of cognitive impairment. They are too far away and they are anxious. They cannot really be inside the headset, or they wouldn't be comfortable.
Right. Yeah, it's very interesting.
Cool. Yeah. Today our time
Well,
is up, and
all right,
yeah.
that was fast.
Lots to
Yeah.
talk about, Jose. It's very
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, the interesting thing is that I mean I'm pretty new to podcasts, so I like to prepare a lot. I was like a study all the right now I even download audio book about like a medical biology, because later on we are going to have a lot of like a something that I don't even know what's going on and I'm about to host it. So yeah, so I read a lot of things, but I find out that the good conversation for podcasts, I want to learn someone from, like, for example, like Lex Freeman, right? Always dress very formal and talk a lot of like physical, very hard to understand what's going on, that types of questions. So yeah, but I think the conversation flow on its own, it's the best. So I'm still learning. I can tell you I
We're
prepare a
all
lot.
still learning.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, I mean, for Medicare, at the beginning, I was like, wow, Vision Pro has a lot of functions. But today, after talking to Dr. Jose, I find out that, wow, actually people like something very affordable and cheaper. I saw like, wow, a lot of hospital has a lot of money, but actually, according to what Ted just mentioned, it's all an insurance company. So yeah, so I just feel like, wow, so that's why I have a podcast that's for a lot of our audience creators who every day using Unity, Blender, so we can learn something else and listen to something and see if there's other opportunities, and people
Yeah.
can start working on some prototype and doing some interesting projects. Yeah.
Jose, I look forward to staying in touch. It sounds like we've got a lot of common threads. that we
Yes,
can pull together.
totally. Me too. Same here. It was a pleasure. Thank
Cool.
you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And
Okay.
see, our podcast will have another episode next week. Okay, so thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Jose. See you.
Bye. See you.